I call the honourable member for Lalor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to condemn the 2014 budget delivered yesterday. People say change the government and you change the country. Last night's budget shines a stark spotlight on the truth of this. Even battle-hardened politicians and the most cynical in our communities are shocked by the draconian measures introduced in the budget last night. Shocked by the sheer audacity, by the hypocrisy on display after the promises made before the election. My electorate of Lalor, Madam Speaker, is one of the highest growth areas in Australia. It is also going to be one of the electorates most affected by this budget of broken promises and twisted priorities. Lalor is home to lots of young families and pensioners. We have newly arrived migrants, lots of single families, and a high proportion of those living with a disability. We've been hit hard by the closure of the car industry, and now we will suffer again. When I talk to the local service providers in the electorate, people like Carol Muir from Werribee Support and Housing and Jenny Barrera from the Wyndham Community and Education Centre, they talk about the incredible cost of living pressures so many in the community already experience. This budget will only increase those pressures. We can expect more families requiring food vouchers, increased evictions, more homeless. There are approximately 10,000 aged pensioners and 5,000 disability support pensioners in Lalor. Madam Speaker, we have a 92% bulk billing rate. We have 3,300 students with a disability in our local schools. The youth unemployment rate is around 35%. These are the people who will be most affected by this budget. Lalor families will be whacked by broken promises. Broken promises such as a $7 GP tax, not just for a visit to the doctor, but for blood tests, scans and x-rays. The axing of the school kids bonus, less money for our local schools, less money for the Werribee Mercy Hospital, the reducing of the family tax benefit, reducing funding for students with disabilities, cutting carers payments and increasing the price of petrol in an area where we rely heavily on our cars. And on top of that, there is no plan for jobs, just cuts to industry innovation funds. Young people in Lalor will suffer also, with increases to uni and TAFE fees, making it harder to access youth allowance, by cutting apprentice support programs including the Tools for Your Trade, by moving under 24-year-olds onto youth allowance, another cut, making those under 30 who lose their job wait 6 months for assistance, and cutting the programs that support job seekers to find work. The cruellest cuts, though, Madam Speaker, are for older residents, those on disability support pension and pensioners. There's funding cuts to pensions. We're making people work till they're 70. The GP tax and changes to the PPS will leave many making decisions between visiting the doctor or filling the pantry. There'll be funding cuts to carers payments and cutting preventative health programs. The priorities of this government are clear. Let's get the most vulnerable in our community to do the heavy lifting. Let's demonise our most vulnerable as taking more than they deserve. Poor sick people will now pay through the GP tax for medical research that once Medicare is dismantled, only the rich will be able to afford and therefore reap the benefit. Families will face increased cost of living pressures by reduced family payments and healthcare becoming more expensive. They will face a petrol tax every time they get in their car. And while they struggle, the top 3% of taxpayers will contribute a mere $7.70 a week in the debt levy. They'll be paid $50,000 when having a baby, while others receive nothing. The budget has taught us much about this government. They're a government of broken promises and twisted priorities. For my community, this is a cruel budget, not just of broken promises, but for many, of broken dreams. And for what? There is no budget emergency, just an excuse to enact this pain, to further embed inequity. Australia is one of the only 10 countries with a AAA credit rating, and the previous Labor government spending in the last 4 years was the lowest it had been in this country for 23 years as a percentage of GDP. I will not stand by as this government tells us that we cannot afford to be fair.
The honourable member's time has expired.